AIM-listed ECR Minerals owns and operates a series of projects in Australia with operations in Queensland and Victoria. Most recently, the company received highly encouraging test results back from global gold processing technical leader Gecko Systems. This company tested the ore from ECR's enhanced gold recovery process at the Blue Mountain project. It's also been a busy week elsewhere for ECR, with a further update on activities along with a new board appointment. I'm delighted to welcome back Chairman Nick Tulloch and MD Mike Whitlow. Hello, gents. How are you both?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Alan. How are you?
Cheers, Al. Yeah, very good.
Very good indeed. Thanks. Very good. So, gents, the company has delivered a veritable plethora of news updates over the past week. Before we discuss the developments at Blue Mountain, in the project update announcement, you stated you're in discussions with 3 Australian public and private companies in relation to the potential sale of the $75 million tax losses. Now, I appreciate NDAs are in circulation, but what can you tell us?
Well, the tax losses are nothing new. They've been in the company since about 2006, since the company began. But we started a process some months back to work out how to monetize those tax losses. And Australian rules are not that different to the UK rules. It's quite tightly controlled. I mean, naturally, governments don't like tax losses being transferred too easily. So it's quite a bespoke process that needs to be put in place. And essentially, we have to sell an operating part of the business. So assets that we no longer require would be included with the tax losses. We've been absolutely delighted with the response. I mean, the number is big. I mean, it's very significant for us, and therefore it'd be very significant for other companies. Very quickly, we've had 3 people contact us. They've signed up to NDAs, and we're going through the process with them. And that process will be to determine, from their point of view, how can they use the tax losses and how quickly can they use the tax losses. The main wrinkle is Australian rules changed in about 2015. So tax losses pre-2015 come under one regime. Post-2015, they come under another regime. So yeah, there's a few complexities, but I think the message is we always knew a very narrow market, but in a narrow market, we got 3 responses very quickly.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Well, operationally,
I mean,
sorry, Mike.
no,
we're going to go.
No, all I was going to say is, look, this is not the only interest that we've had. We've been able to convert the 3 that we've referred to. There's significant interest in addition to that. And as Nick says, it's not a straightforward process, but the hard work has been done to get us to this point, and we're at the exciting end of the transaction. Of course, that's not to say it will happen tomorrow, but we're getting closer to the target. Put it that way.
Excellent news. Excellent news. Well, operationally, some very exciting developments at Lulworth too, up in Queensland, where you announced a partnership with the Geological Survey of Queensland to further investigate the critical minerals potential across the project. This is a really strong validation of all the field work that Adam Jones and the team have done there to date. What's going to happen next with the GSQ partnership?
I mean, look, I think, Alex, one of these situations that is developing as we speak. So, they came to us, asked for a little bit of data, some communication with Adam and our technical team. We, of course, obliged them, as naturally we would. And those guys have continued to communicate with us, have been out in the field, have done some work, and the results of that work will be shared with us. And geological department in Queensland are only too happy to be acknowledged as part of this collaboration, and we're thrilled to be advancing. There's an initiative, I believe, in Queensland where projects that are of interest are being targeted, and we're thrilled that our target's one of them, or our project's one of the targets, rather.
Excellent. Well, of course, the appointment of Mike Parker of First Quantum Minerals fame as a consultant geologist to ECR is also a big step. Will Mike be involved at Lulworth along with the GSQ?
I mean,
I was going to say, I think we'd expect Mike to be involved in all of our projects. I mean, Mike is well known across the market. His experience, I think, speaks for itself. But we've been looking to expand our geology knowledge. I mean, at the moment, Adam is doing an absolutely fantastic job, but a lot rides on his shoulders. And to use a cliche, 2 heads better than 1. Working through the different projects we've got, having more opinions, more views, more ideas is certainly to our benefit. And Mike brings that to the table. So it's terrific he's joined. We're absolutely delighted he's part of the team, and he probably couldn't be joining on a better week as well, given the number of projects we've got going.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, on that plethora of news flow this week, let's take a look at Blue Mountain. Of course, Gecko Systems tested ore from the enhanced gold recovery process, along with some very strong results, both from the average assay test work head grade and, of course, the single stage gravity recoverable gold test, where the number was really off the scale. What can you tell us about the Gecko test?
I mean, look, it is as said, really. It's been provided to us by a global leader. We had deep suspicions that that there was more gold in the project at Blue Mountain, and as a result of it, we decided to initiate this this test work, and it's came back fantastic. Those results are incredible. And whilst we've had a number of releases this week, that's a really, really big key event for us as a business. I think when people sit down and start looking at the possibilities of where that would take us, I mean, it's imperative for us to understand the gold system at Blue Mountain, and what's apparent is that a vast amount of gold, unfortunately, was missed by the old timers, and this report demonstrates that quite clearly. So yeah, for us, it means that we can accelerate the project at Blue Mountain. It means that the value of the project to us is greater. And I think, the ranking of our projects internally sees Blue Mountain rising quite nicely. So we are thrilled by the news, Al. I'll let Nick finish off, I suppose, on that subject.
I'm not sure there's much more to say. I mean, it's a big change for us. This getting a consultant to verify and endorse what we think would work in that location. So, as Mike says, Gecko, world leaders in what they do, their endorsement and their validation of our plans is a huge step forward. And work now begins to determine what we can do going forward.
Of course. Well, there's a lot of history at Blue Mountain too. Previous owners, of course, Blue Kettle, in their report stated that they believed shallow mineralization down to about 4 meters could potentially yield over 100,000 ounces of gold. Given the outcome with Gecko, I guess you're pretty comfortable with those sort of numbers now.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but we'd be cautious about relying on someone else's report. I mean, what Gecko have told us is that the gold, 92% of the gold is recoverable. What we also know is that the process of recovering the gold is straightforward. It's, as you say, it's at or near surface. We're talking about sort of 4 meters down. We haven't done our own resource report, so we're relying on what's been done in the past. But you can extrapolate any of those numbers, or investors can extrapolate any of those numbers. Potentially, the resource is very big. We don't know. We haven't got our own data. But what we do know is that the gold can be accessed in a straightforward manner, and 92% of it's recoverable. And as Mike says, that's vastly more than where the old timers were. Sure. So we've got a project that's very easily workable. Now we need to work out whether it's economic. And if those Blue Kettle numbers are right, terrific. But let's see how we go.
Of course. So
I mean, just as a bit of an addition there as well, Alan, sorry again to cut across, is, I see some of these comments online from people saying, they've got to drill, they've got to do some drilling before they can get a resource report. This is an alluvial gold deposit which is sitting at surface. We don't have to drill at all. We can get an inferred resource report or a resource report without needing to drill. We've done quite a significant amount of work to determine the value of the gold that's in the ground, and that the results that have come independently from Gecko to us showing that enhancement using, as Nick says, a very simple method of gravity is exceptional, and there's a huge improvement. In addition, I've seen other comments that have said these guys won't get a mining license. If you actually go and look at the kind of project we're looking at, is we're trying to be as environmentally sensitive as possible, which is why the Gecko report actually points to the significance of this centrifugal BCC method being beneficial, in order to do that. Under an exploration license, you can produce 1,000 tons of material as well. So, just to try and not necessarily shoot people down or poo-poo, some of these ideas, but I see some strange suggestions that are often just simply not factual, and I thought that was worth noting at this point.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, noted. So what are the next steps now the Gecko report?
Well, I think the next steps is to start determining the economics. As you pointed out earlier, we've got some quite interesting history at the project based on other people's work. We've now got our own work, the validation of that work from Gecko, and we know there's gold there. We know we can recover it. We can recover 92% of it. The next step is to work out the economics of how we go about doing that, and therefore determining whether it's commercial. So, I don't think we need to go on digging a whole load more trenches, as Mike quite rightly says. There's no drilling to be done. The gold is very much at surface. So there's a bit of desktop work to be planned out. But the objective, as we alluded to in the announcement, is to determine whether this is commercial and therefore whether we can start a production plant.
Absolutely. And I think, it's also worth, again, noting that we don't intend on spending weeks and months and years trying to work out where we're going to go with the project. We need to now look at bringing in a competent person, get them out into the field, look at the process, look at the strategy, the reports, the data, and to get them comfortable with that, with that report, which would give us some sort of an inferred idea of the size. And, we're talking about or referring to the Blue Kebble report saying there's up to 100,000 ounces. I mean, there could be up to 200,000 or 400,000 ounces, just as easy as there could be 40. So we think it's important that whilst the recovery rate is much higher than we expected, which shows that we'll get off the blocks fast, we're now looking to see whether we can expand upon that size of project. It's simple, back of the fag packet calculation shows you how significant that project could be to us. But as Nick says, a little bit more to do, but we're not going to dilly-dally forever on it, that's for certain.
For sure. Well, you've acquired between you a real reputation for financial prudence in running the company, husbanding the resources carefully. Of course, various assets have been sold. You sold the two rigs now, and funds have come in from those. You've sold a property. There's a Creswick property, I believe, still to be sold going forward. What's the position looking like in terms of assets, and of course in the background too? We've already discussed the tax losses. What is the position looking like now in terms of funding?
Well, I mean, you're right, Alan. We always said from the outset that the money should be spent in the ground, and that means that the board and the senior members of the company are now largely being remunerated in shares. As you also point out, we closed the London office. We're largely operating in Australia. We don't need an expensive London office. We've sold equipment that's not required. There is, as you say, another property still to be sold. So the idea is exactly that: make sure we spend the money on the ground. Nothing's going to change. We're going to continue to run the company very cautiously and very prudently. We are a small gold mining company based largely in Australia. We've got a number of projects. It's one of the big assets of the company that we have such a wide spread of projects, and we need to make sure we use our funds wisely. So, when we come back to Blue Mountain, it's exactly that. It's making sure that what we can do is going to be economic. It's going to be prudent. Of course, there's risk involved, but it's all about mapping that out. And I think Mike quite sensibly pointed out, we're not going to dilly-dally on this, but equally, we're not going to rush into something that's totally crazy.
Of course. Well, the news and the developments are coming thick and fast. Before we wrap up, gents, can you provide a flavour of what else we and investors can expect in the run-up to Christmas from ECR?
Yeah, I mean, a company that intends to try and, we've been accused over the summer of not being able to convert things quickly enough. In the last week or two, we brought in a number of people that are parties that are interested in these accumulated tax losses. There's been a significant interest aside of the three that have came in. We've agreed a collaboration and worked with over a number of weeks, the Geological Survey in Queensland, the government department, brought in a geologist to join the team who we think his pedigree speaks for itself. We've got an independent report that says that the projects are quite interesting. So, very interesting. So, what we've been accused of is we're not been able to get things over the line. We're getting these things over the line, and we will continue to do so. We've got a team on the ground. We shouldn't forget up at Tambo, we've got a diamond drill program, which is imminently about to kick off. And there's going to be updates from Queensland. I'm sure we'll see a flavour of Mike Parker and what he brings to the table. Operations developing down in Victoria, live active drilling to speak of. And if we can dispose one of these assets, whether it be Bruin Lane or the accumulated tax losses, it'll put us in pole position in these markets. I hear people talk about funding on a day-to-day basis. My only message to them is, Nick and I are big shareholders. We've been paid for a year in shares predominantly. We're not going to do anything stupid here, folks.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, it's been very exciting catching up with you both and hearing the latest developments. We wish you every continued success with ECR's rapid progress. Nick Tulloch and Mike Whitlow, many thanks for joining us today.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks.